Hey there, and welcome back to Transformers Fall of Cybertron. As you recall, in the last episode, we showcased the last of the Skellmesh models in the game. And now, we are going to be highlighting a specific character that was sadly scrapped from the majority of the game, but nonetheless, still has both his modes present in the game's files. He is the missing Dinobot, the one, the only, Sludge. I honestly don't understand why Sludge was pretty much entirely scrapped from the game and didn't even have his parts carried over into multiplayer, but maybe that was just the plan all along, who knows. Either way, Sludge deserved way more love and attention than he got. Well, let's go trudge through the mess that is his life and give him the appropriate love and respect he deserves. And here we have Dinobot Sludge. As you all remember, Sludge's robot mode makes only a brief appearance as a damaged husk at the start of Chapter 5 Cut and Run, where Jazz finds him in the sewers and taps his memory core for information that may reveal to the cause of his fate. Now, this guy was a huge pain to get working in game back in the day. Our modding tools were much more primitive compared to what we have now, but I remember the day when someone finally did get him in game, and it was like the hugest thing ever in the modding community. I sadly can't remember who exactly it was to get him in game first, but I do remember it was a huge deal when they actually did. Well, anyway, despite appearing solely as a corpse, his robot mode actually is fully compatible with the standard FOC gameplay, give or take a few minor quirks. Visually, Sludge shares the same general color scheme with that of the other Dinobots, mainly using the same colors as Slug, Snarl, and Swoop. Interesting to note that there seems to be some inconsistencies with his primary and secondary colors. According to concept art, Sludge's color scheme is actually inverted compared to what we see here. The red sections are supposed to be gold and vice versa. So in theory, he should look more like this. It's difficult to say if this is an actual issue, or someone simply forgetting to adjust the materials, or if the color masks were just set up wrong, or even if the design was just deliberately changed for some reason. Either way, this is what we ended up with in the final game, consistent with the concept art or not. Anyway, let's go through each section of Sludge here and see what's up. Starting up with the head, it does sit pretty strangely on top of his chest. A small section of circuitry below his head would have made it appear far less abrupt and strange. As you've heard me say in my AI parts video, some of Sludge's parts are reused for multiple AI characters. His head, in this case, being reused for the Scrapper enemy. Not too much else here to mention otherwise. The chest is probably the most iconic aspect of this guy's design. It does appear gold compared to the red we see in concept art. That red hunch behind his head was meant to be his dino head, but is missing a lot of the unique detailing for it. And I also think he's a bit too fat. Yeah, his chest just sticks out a bit too much for my liking. I think they could have slimmed him down just a little bit, because something about his chest just looks off. Checking from the back though, which contains the bulk of his dino neck, with two large panels on the side and a massive glowing core in the inside of the neck. It is a pretty sweet design that would have been really cool to see reused on an AI character at some point. But sadly, it did not. Moving over to the shoulders are where things really start to get interesting. For some reason, his caps are actually assigned to his primary color, when in reality, they shouldn't be assigned to any color at all. According to concept art, the only section here that should be colored is the inner node on the bottom of his upper latch. I'm forced to guess this was done so that the Autobot shotgunners would use colors for their shoulders, as they're just modified versions of Sludges with only the latches removed. So, strange touch, don't really get it. The arm ups though seem to be fine. Nothing seems too different in translation from concept art to model, so we'll just continue down to the arms. The arms don't have a whole lot to write home about. Really, the only point of note here is there are a couple color splotches on the outer sides of them, which are gold in concept art, but show up red here. Same with his finger joints. Aside from those two details, nothing too special going on here. Finally, we have his legs, which are the only part of Sludge accessible by simple cul-de-sac modding, since it is straight up reused by the Decepticon shotgunner, and then later slimmed down for the Kaon/Arc soldier. Deco-wise, aside from being inverted, it seems more or less on point. There are a few areas that differ slightly, but generally it is accurate enough. Well, that's about all I can say for robot mode. Since there is no transformation animation for Sludge, we'll just cut over to Dino mode itself. Magic! And here we have Sludge's Dino mode. Based upon the Brontosaurus, this alt mode can easily go passed over as it is present only as an optional control panel at the observatory in Chapter 12, Grimlock Smash, as a hologram that showcases Shockwave's would-be design for him. But since he did not survive the Insecticon attack, it sadly went unused. It does also appear in the ending credits of the game, but then again, so did Scattershot in War for Cybertron, and he was noticeably lacking in the PC version of the game. Anyway, contrary to robot mode, Sludge's Dino mode is not nearly quite so functional. In fact, it has only one functional animation, seen only in the observatory as a simple walking animation for Shockwave's hologram. And since that is in fact the only animation that he has access to, I'll just stick with presenting him as a static figure. Visually, Sludge's colors seem to follow what is shown in the concept art, so I'm not totally sure what happened to robot mode. Maybe the primary and secondary colors genuinely did get messed up in robot mode. Who knows? Either way, Dino mode seems to have been left intact color-wise. It is interesting to note that the concept art has a lot of his inner circuitry colored red. Curious what caused them to deviate from that design aspect in game, but no matter. Let's run through some of his key design points here. Starting up with the head, it is fully gold, with an Autobot insignia dotting the top. The neck is fully silver, with some energon veins on the sides and bottom. It is interesting to note that some concept art has several of the upper segments of the neck colored gold instead of them all being silver. So that's intriguing. Up on the back is probably his most distinctive sections, with there being several unique sections of armor, bearing some small red spots on the front side panels, and some red and gold dotting the back, as well as the golden latches, similar to what we see on his caps in robot mode. Though his front side vents seem to have been substantially scaled down in comparison to his concept art, and there should also be some darker paint covering those sections as well, so some slight changes there, but nothing too significant. Moving down to the stomach, he has a completely red set of armor covering the front portion of it, and nothing else too special going on down here. So let's continue on. The front legs seem to have swapped out some red paint for an energon glow when compared to the front knee armor of his concept art, and it also seems that they flat out added some duplicate knee armor from the rear legs that he didn't originally have in concept art. I have to admit, it does make this section look a little overly bulky, so I probably would have stuck with leaving it off personally. The rear legs seem to be the most consistent from concept art to game, though there does seem to be some more paint to energon swaps again, and there was also a red joint beneath his knee armor, but generally the proportions are fairly accurate. Moving to the back of the legs, they seem to be missing some more red detailing, and the heel is missing a minuscule part on the back. Finally, we have the tail that seems similar enough, though he's missing some red on his second tail panel, which was either meant to be an energon vein or a faction symbol. Can't really tell which. There also seems to be some gold sections on the tail that were meant to line the lower sidings of it, but they seem to have moved that to take the place of his joints, which I don't see in the concept art at all. And that's all I've got for Sludge. That may not have been the most exciting video in the world, but since he had both modes in the game, I figured it was only fair to cover both in a single video. Well, I think that's all I've got for you for Fall of Cybertron for the year. I'm hoping to have some more releases and tutorials, and hopefully get the AI video done next year, but we'll just have to see how everything turns out. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode with whatever's next. Later.